Good evening, everyone. Myself, Dr. Gaurav Agrawal, working as an interventional pediatric cardiologist at BL Kapoor Hospital, New Delhi. Today, I will discuss in brief very common pediatric cardiac diseases that we are dealing in day-to-day practice, their approach and management. I want to disclose few things. As we all know, pediatric cardiology is a difficult subject. Content may be old for someone and new for many of us. I try to make as simple as possible. The talk is mainly focuses on the clinical assessment and what are the various treatment options. And there are many more diseases beyond this presentation, but in the interest of time, it is difficult to present everything. There are few problems in developing countries like India. There are lack of dedicated pediatric cardiac centers, including pediatric cardiac surgeons. There are not enough emphasis on pediatric cardiology in our residency and training program, and there are lack of adequate government and corporate support to run and sustain pediatric cardiac facilities. CSD incidence is 8 to 10 per thousand live births, as we all know. Out of these, 30% are the critical cardiac lesions, and that accounts 10% of the infant mortality, and that is the third commonest cause. Alexander Nadas gave a comment: clinical assessment, chest X-ray and ECG forms a tripod on which the clinical diagnosis of pediatric cardiology rests. After that, we should consider echocardiography and further investigations. What is the Nadas criteria? There are four major criteria: grade 3 and more systolic murmur. Diastolic murmur is always pathological. Cyanosis and congestive cardiac failure. Minor are abnormal second heart sound, less than grade 3 systolic murmur, abnormal X-ray, ECG, and blood pressure. Presence of one major or two minor falls the patient into the category of congenital heart disease. Common CSDs are acyanotic or cyanotic. Acyanotic can be in the form of increased pulmonary blood flow situations, like most common is the ventricular septal defect, commonly known as the VSD. Others can be atrial septal defect, PDA, AV canal defect, coronary fistulas, rupture sinus of Valsalva, etc. These are the increased pulmonary blood flow situations. Normal pulmonary blood flow situation, the examples are aortic stenosis, pulmonary stenosis, or coarctation of aorta. These are the obstructed lesions. Cyanotic CSDs are classified into four broad categories. Most common is the decreased pulmonary blood flow situations like tetralogy of Fallot, TGA with VSD, but with pulmonary stenosis, single ventricle pulmonary stenosis. Increased pulmonary blood flow situation, most common example is the transposition of great vessels, TGA with VSD. VSD should be there. Others are TAPVC, truncus, single ventricle without PS. Obstructed lesions, most common example is the obstructed TAPVC. Others can be hypoplastic left heart syndrome. Miscellaneous, in day-to-day practice, we are routinely seeing Eisenmenger type of physiology when the left to right shunt lesions or cyanotic with increased pulmonary blood flow situations are not treated at a proper time. Patient converted into Eisenmenger. Others, less commonly, pulmonary AV fistula, superior vena cava draining to the left-sided atrium, common atrium. Now questions come: when to suspect heart disease? When there are few symptoms like that, failure to thrive, feeding disturbances, congestive cardiac failure features like tachycardia, tachypnea, sweating, hepatomegaly, cyanotic spells, syncope or convulsion, palpitation, sudden history of sudden death in the family, and repeated LRTI. These are the few common pediatric cardiac symptoms that can lead to suspicion of congenital heart disease. On examination, common features are like if growth is abnormal, that can be a feature of cardiac disease like left to right shunt lesions, or can be some form of syndromic like Down syndrome. Abnormal vitals, BP can be different in upper and lower limb in case of coarctation of aorta. Bounding pulses are commonly seen in PDA and AP window. Rhythm disturbance can also lead to a suspicion of congenital heart disease, like in case of Epstein, supraventricular tachycardia is very common. TRAPS signifies the heart failure. In pediatric cardiology, second heart sound is a common thing that should be understandable. If abnormal heart sound is there, second heart sound, for example, widely split and fixed heart sound is there in case of ASD. If with cyanosis, then same splitting can be there in case of TAPVC, but cyanosis will be there. Cyanosis can be visible or not visible. Apex should be palpated for any displacement, thrill, diastolic murmur, any harsh murmur should be ausculted. That always indicate there any form of structural heart. Absent or weak femorals always indicate there is some problem in the descending aorta. Most common is the coarctation of aorta. Other can be acquired condition like Takayuki arthritis. Liver should be palpated for whether it is on the right side or not. If it is on the right side, it is normal, commonly known as the situs solitus, or it can be situs inversus or ambiguous. Now, what is the mode of presentation of congenital heart diseases? Neonates are generally present in the form of cyanosis, shock, heart failure, and asymptomatic murmur. Infant and older children generally with the asymptomatic murmur, if it is mild, and CHD is mild, cyanosis with or without CHF, isolated CHF, arrhythmia, and syncope. Coming through the cases, this presentation is mainly based on the cases. 14-year-old female, asymptomatic, consulted adult cardiologist for abnormal heart sound, asymptomatic murmur referred. There was left parasternal heave due to the prominent right ventricle impulses. Second heart sound was widely split and fixed, and there was grade 2 to 3 ejection systolic murmur at left upper sternal border. Because this talk is not suitable for any interactive session, the most common diagnosis is atrial septal defect because the patient is asymptomatic, non-cyanotic, and second heart sound is widely split and fixed. Another can be the partial anomalous pulmonary venous connection. The murmur at the left upper external border is due to the increased flow through the pulmonary valve. This is a very routine X-ray of large ASD in which you can see the dilated right atrium is there, right ventricle is there with pulmonary plethora. Echo shows large ostium secundum ASD with good rims, dilated right atrium and right ventricle. What are the symptoms of ASD? Generally, patients with ASD, whether it is even if it is large in size, asymptomatic, and rarely in infant age group, in 5 to 10% of the cases, the child may present in the form of heart failure, pulmonary arterial hypertension, but it is very rare. In later stages, shortness of breath and fatigue on injection can be there. Arrhythmia and pulmonary hypertension occurs in the third and fourth decade if not treated. The modes of treatment of ASD, ostium secundum ASD, it is most common. 70 to 75% of ASDs are ostium secundum, and spontaneous closure of ostium secundum ASD is very rare if the size is less than 8 mm at birth. Indication of closure whenever ASD is there with right-sided right ventricular volume overload is there, that it is an indication. The ideal age for closure of ostium secundum ASD is 2 to 4 years. And earlier, as I told you, in infant age group, if patient is very symptomatic, then it can be treated at that time also. Sinus venosus, whether it is of right superior vena cava or IVC type, it should be treated by 5 years of age, because if we are treating in less than 5 years, the patient can be reoperated at later part of the life. Ostium primum, as for the ostium secundum, by 2 to 4 years of age, but ostium primum is the ostium primum defect. Only ASD that is known as ASD is the ostium secundum. Others type like sinus venosus or ostium primum are not the true ASD. These are known as the sinus venosus defect and ostium primum defect, not sinus venosus ASD and ostium primum ASD. And it should be treated by 2 to 4 years of age. If associated with the significant mitral regurgitation, then by 1 to 2 years of age, we have to treat. And with newer techniques, 80% of the secundum ASD can be closed by laser technique, commonly known as the angiographic closure of the ASD by device technique. And these are the few examples. This is a subcostal view that is showing a large ASD here, left atrium, right atrium. You can see the flow that was closed in the cath lab. This is the post device. Here is the ASD device. Similarly, this is an adult patient that was having 3.4 centimeter, 34 mm ASD. That was also closed with the device in the cath lab. So, in adult patient, limitations are not there as in case of pediatric. So, even if the ASD is 34, 35, 36 mm in size with adequate margins around the size, around the hole, then even then we can close in the cath lab without surgery. This is a very unique case. As you can see, the cardiac border is on the right side. This is a dextrocardia. IVC is on the right side. This situs solitus, because IVC is on the right side. This catheter wire is from the femoral vein. That fortunately this child was having only ASD as in case of citus soletis dextrocardia, multiple complex congenital heart disease can be there. But in this case, there was only ASD. That was also closed in the cath lab. This is a newer technique was conducted for last few years. Sinus venosus defect. Previously, it was closed only by open heart surgery. But if the conditions are suitable for transcatheter method, that it can also be closed in the cath lab by a non-surgical technique by putting a covered stent across it. This is a covered stent across the sinus venosus defect. Another case, 21 days preterm, 27 weeker with weight of 1.1 kg. Patient is dependent on the oxygen with work of breathing, tachypnea, dyspnea was there. Echo shows 3 mm PDA with dilated LA-LB. I want to make a interactive here, but it is not possible. The plan of management, because the patient is symptomatic, we have to treat. But ideal treatment is first and foremost is the conservative management that is going to be forgotten due to the availability of the medical treatment. But first we should try this. The fluid restriction should be there in preterm infants. High PEEP should be there to keep the alveoli open and to decrease the pulmonary blood flow and to maintain the systemic blood flow. And the use of minimal supplemental oxygen to avoid free radical injury due to the oxygen and permissive hypercapnia should be there. And we should not try to correct metabolic alkalosis because it will lead to the pulmonary vasodilatation and will increase the lung injury. If conservative management is failed, then we should think about the medical treatment. Commonly used drugs nowadays is the ibuprofen and paracetamol. Indomethacin I never used in last 5 years. The doses of brufen is brufen has to be given orally. There is no IV for brufen. Loading dose is 10 mg per kg per dose, and subsequent doses 5 mg per kg per day for 2 days. Meaning by 20 mg per kg is the total dose for one cycle of brufen. If one cycle is not effective, then we can give second trial also in the same doses. Paracetamol has to be given by IV technique, 15 mg per kg 6 hourly. 15 mg per kg per dose 6 hourly for 3 days. Similarly, if PCM is also not effective, then it can also be repeated for the second cycle. If medical treatment is also failed, believe me, the diuretic is having a very good role. But diuretic should be given when medical therapy failed and should not be used simultaneously. Because the patient will be symptomatic due to the hemodynamically significant PDA will have signs of heart failure. The furosemide should be given, and majority of the preterm babies can be will be come out from the CPAP or respiratory support with the judicious uses of the diuretic. If even these techniques or methods are failed, then we have to think about the surgical ligation. If the PDA size is more than 3.5 mm, then we have to send for surgery. Otherwise, we can close the PDA in the cath lab also by device technique, even in case of preterm PDA. This is a trial that was published in October 2018, known as Tolerate PDA trial. They compare early drug treatment with a conservative approach in moderate to large size PDA at the age of 1 week. They found there is no difference in the either primary outcome of ligation or presence of PDA at discharge. There was no difference whether it was treated with a conservative approach or drug treatment. But they found there was high incidence of late onset sepsis and death, infant born at more than 26 weeks of gestation. So that final conclusion is that conservative treatment is always better as compared to the medical treatment. Another study published in May 2020, this year only, they included 23 to 30 weeks gestation preterm babies in the second week of life, and they found the closure rate is high in brufen with the brufen in babies who are more than 27 weeks of gestation, and there was no effect of medical treatment in less than 27 weeks of gestation babies. So conservative treatment is not inferior to brufen in 23 to 26 weeks of gestation babies. So if PDA is seen in term babies or infant and children, in term babies there is no role of medical treatment. Only conservative management in the form of fluid restrictions and diuretic can be taken up. Large PDA has to be treated by 3 to 6 months of age by surgery. Moderate size of PDA by 6 months to 1 year of age, preferably by device if suitable. Otherwise, we have to send for surgery. Small PDA by 1 to 1.5 years of age, only by device. In silent PDF, and there is no murmur, but there were echo showed there is some form of PDA. This PDA doesn't require any treatment. Silent PDA should not be treated. Only infective endocarditis prophylaxis should be given. This is a 5-year-old child. You can see there is a PDA from descending aorta to PA that was closed in the cath lab. This is the aortic end of the device. This is the PA end of the device. This is the post device. Here you can see there is a device. There is no red flow here now. This is a very routine case that we are seeing in day-to-day practice. Full-term neonate that was diagnosed as moderate size VSD at birth came at 2 to 3 months of age with signs of heart failure, and there was ejection systolic murmur at left infraclavicular area as well as mid-diastolic murmur was there at apex. Echo showed at birth 4.5 mm VSD with septal aneurysm with dilated left-sided chamber. We kept that child on diuretic and followed at frequent intervals. On follow-up, the VSD converted into the restrictive type, means small VSD was there, and currently on medical follow-up with no medication. Symptoms of VSD, PDA, AP window, AV canal, as we all know, small size will not have any symptoms, and large size will have significant left-right shunt lesions. VSD treatment. Role of drugs are there for controlling the heart failure and infective endocarditis treatment. The drugs commonly used are the furosemide and aldactone. If not controlled on maximum doses of these two medications, then we can add AC inhibitor. Commonly used medication is the enalapril. Even if this is not working, I in the last add digoxin. Digoxin is not my preference drug because of the multiple toxicities associated with the digoxin. And is there any role of sildenafil in case of VSD PH? Because many reports written the large VSD with PH. Please don't use sildenafil or any other pulmonary vasodilator if the patient is operable. Suppose if 4-month-old child is there that is having large VSD with PH reported. PH will always be there in case of large VSD or AP window anything. But this PH is operable. PH that is not operable like Eisenmenger. This should be treated with the vasodilator, pulmonary vasodilators. Otherwise, what will happen in an operable child like 4 to 5 months or 6-month-old with large VSD? This pulmonary vasodilator will further increase the lung blood supply due to the pulmonary vasodilatation and will lead to early Eisenmenger phase as compared to the late when this was not used. Large VSD should be treated by 3 to 6 months of age only by surgery. Moderate VSD by 1 to 2 years of age. Surgery versus device depending on the location and size of the VSD and weight of the child. Asymptomatic small VSD should be followed up annually for 10 years, then once in 2 years till we have to make a decision whether it should be closed or not. Small VSD are generally prone for aortic regurgitation because it is very near to the aortic valve, especially in case of perimembranous VSD. Anytime aortic regurgitation reported on the echo report, then it should be treated, preferably by surgery. It's a 9-year-old girl. As you can see, here is the LV, this is the RV, this is the ventricular septum. There is moderate size VSD. That angiogram of the same patient, LV angiogram. Here is the VSD. This is the VSD that was closed with the device. Here you can see now there is no jet, only device is there. So VSD, even in infant, if muscular VSD is there, we can close in the cath lab by device technique. This is a large VSD in adult post myocardial infarction VSD. Here you can see the large VSD device across the septum. Even in infant, if small VSD, moderate size VSD is there in the mid muscular part, we can close in the cath lab. And if VSD and PDA both are there, even then, if the weight of the child, size of the VSD, PDA are in comfortable zone, we can close both at the same time. Now coming on the complete AV canal defect, it is commonly seen in case of Downs. Presentation will be early as compared to the routine large VSD because the nasopharynx area and airway are small, and a lung hypoplasia can also be there. That will lead to the early PH, pulmonary arterial hypertension. Symptoms will be very severe as compared to the isolated large VSD, and the treatment is always surgical. It depends what type of AV canal defect is there. Suppose it is complete, then it will have large primum defect and large indolent VSD. It has to be operated preferably by 3 months of age. If it is only having partial form of AV canal defect in which VSD is not there, but only large primum type of defect is there, then it can be it should be treated in the same way as we are treating for the isolated primum. This is a large AP window. Similarly, coronary fistulas, if these are large in size, this can also lead to the left to right shunt lesions. These can be tackled in the cath lab also by putting a device. Here you can see that the large device is there across the coronary fistula. Another left to right shunt lesion are commonly known as the ruptured sinus of Valsalva, in which the aortic sinus will rupture into the right or left side chamber. It will also lead to the left to right shunt lesions. Here you can see the aortic angiogram filled the right ventricle outflow that was closed with the device. Now coming to the obstructive lesions. This is a 8-month-old female child, came with the history of some asymptomatic with only complaint there was some abnormal sound. Second ultrasound was single with ejection click, and there was grade 4/6 ejection systolic murmur at left upper sternal border as well as left lower sternal border. Echo showed severe valvular pulmonary stenosis with a small VSD. Management for such type of problem, a patient when the patient is asymptomatic but having severe valvular pulmonary stenosis, it should be tackled by using a balloon in the cath lab for opening the valve. Valvular can be tackled in the cath lab by balloon, but other types of stenosis, infundibular and supravalvular, has to be tackled in the operation theater only. Small VSD can be left alone. The patient is on follow-up. This is an angiographic representation. This is an angiogram in the right ventricular outflow tract that was tackled with a balloon. In the case, healthy newborn presented on second and third day of life with sudden onset of pallor and shock-like features, not passing urine and not taking feed for last few hours. Signs of tachypnea, tachycardia, decreased perfusion was there. Upper limb saturation was 96% and lower limb saturation was 88%. There was significant saturation difference in upper and lower limb. And ventilation, fluid velocity in inotrope was not having any response. As saturation was lower in lower leg, that was having some form of PDA shunting right to left. Echo showed critical coarctation of aorta that was drug dependent, PDA dependent. Whenever in doubt, we can start prostaglandin infusion, but in some cases it can be detrimental. I will let you know later on. Treatment is, if the patient is having critical coarctation of aorta with normal left ventricle function, the treatment is only surgery, especially in case of 6 months, up to 6 months to 1 year of age. If the child is bigger enough, then we can take for balloon. This is angiographic demonstration. Here you can see in a bigger child, severe coarctation. After balloon, you can see the difference. Similarly, critical aortic stenosis can also lead to such type of presented shock-like features. This is not moving. Similarly, valvular aortic stenosis can be tackled by using a balloon. Obstructive lesions, neonates, if it is severe, will present in the form of shock-like condition if mild, asymptomatic. Infantile children generally are asymptomatic, but if the problem gradually increases, they will present in the earliest presentation will be fatigue. Others can be chest pain, syncope, and dyspnea on exertion only in later stages when the heart will fail. Pulmonary stenosis will have left peristernal heave due to the prominent RV impulses, and the murmur of the PS will radiate to the back due to the posteriorly directing pulmonary blood vessels. And aortic stenosis will have heaving type of effects, and the murmur will be more ausculted on the right upper peristernal region as compared to the left, and will radiate to the parotid. So please try to auscultate it on the right side also. Coarctation of aorta patient will have history of easy fatigue and history of claudication while doing some exercise and running activities. Pulses will be weak or absent in the lower limb, and the murmur will be loud in the interscapular region due to the multiple collaterals, and there will be hypertension in bigger patients. So try to palpate the pulse in lower limb also in OPD patients, and try to take saturation in every newborn who is getting born in the hospital, at least one upper limb and lower limbs, to rule out any mishappening coming in 1 or 2 days. And we should make a habit of checking saturation in OPD in every patient, because if the saturation is more than 85%, we cannot pick any heart disease unless it is visible by less than 85% of the saturation. The severe valvular type of aortic pulmonary stenosis, ballooning is the treatment of choice. If mild to moderate, follow-up is required. Other type of obstruction in aorta and pulmonary will require surgery. In neonates that I already told you, with normal LV function with coarctation, surgery is the treatment of choice. If patient neonate is in the high risk category, like severe sepsis is there with LV function is poor, ballooning can be done as a palliative, but ultimately we have to send for surgery as soon as the condition is stabilized. Coarctation of aorta in children, drugs for controlling hypertension. For severe, ballooning is the treatment, and in adult or adolescent, stent is preferred. This is angiographic demonstration of stent. Here, severe coarc is there by putting a stent across it. This is the balloon inflated across the stent, and this is the final result. Another case, asymptomatic neonate was discharged on breastfeed, suddenly present on day 3 of life with cyanosis and decreased feeding. Saturation was 70% on room air with mild tachypnea and minimal distress. Soft murmur at left upper sternal border, no response to the oxygen, saturation minimally increased with ventilation. Prostaglandin was started in view of the low saturation. And this was the X-ray of the same patient, boot-shaped heart with pulmonary oligema on both sides. Tetralogy of Fallot will have large VSD with narrowing at the below the pulmonary valve or at any level of the pulmonary artery. As the obstruction increases at any of these levels, the shunting will increase from RV to LV, the cyanosis will further increase. Treatment is medical, when we have to give iron and propanol to decrease the saturation, decrease the cyanosis, and surgery or intervention are the definitive treatment. This is the echocardiography. This is showing the large VSD. This is angiographic. What are the treatment options for such type of patients? Either we have to send for BT shunt or we can do some interventional procedures. Like this is a severe right ventricular outflow tract obstruction that was palliated with the palliated, not curative, stent, and this was the final result. And if PD is patent, suppose in 2 or 3 days of newborn, if PD is patent, then instead of RVOT stenting, PDA stenting is the best palliative procedure. If all these two things are not possible, then we have to send the child for BT shunt. But in neonatal age group, BT shunt results are not so good. So we have to think about PDA stenting and RVOT stenting, whatever it is possible. This is echocardiographic demonstration. As you can see, this is the aorta in which we have taken a graft from a nominate artery and connected to the pulmonary artery. You can see with the purplish one is the pulmonary artery. Here is somewhere is the aorta branch, the blood flow from the aorta to pulmonary artery. Indication for surgery in tetralogy of Fallot whenever there is saturation less than 75% or is there any history of life-threatening cyanotic spell. And ideal age of repair of tetralogy of Fallot is by 6 months of age in Indian setup, but in abroad they are getting operated by less than 6 months of age also. The PGE1 dose, prostaglandin dose, 0.004 to 0.1 mics per kg per minute IV infusion can go up to 0.2. Maintenance, whenever desired saturation achieved, then it can go up to 0.01 mics per kg per minute. And what is the role of prostaglandin even in obstructed TAPVC, TJ with restrictive PFO or tricuspid atresia with restrictive PFO? It should not be used. Because in this condition, if we are using, the pulmonary vasodilatation will be there, the lung blood supply will increase. In view of that, pulmonary venous return will increase, but the things are obstructed. That patient will deteriorate further, alveolar edema will be there, and patient can die. And that is 2-month-old, history of sudden cyanosis while defecating in the morning with normal weight, saturation measured at the time of sleep was 84%. We cannot measure saturation in a crying child. And there were ejection systolic murmur at left upper sternal border. This is a clear-cut history of cyanotic spell. Anything that increases the physical activity, like crying, feeding, defecation, or will precipitate the cyanotic spell in view of the increased tachycardia, and that will lead to the decreased filling of the cardiac chamber and will decrease further cardiac output. But foremost is to keep the patient calm in managing the cyanotic spell. the best is to keep the patient in the mother's or father lap, so the patient will be quite uncomfortable. Knee chest position has to be done so that the systemic vascular resistance will increase. That will increase the left to right shunt lesions across the pulmonary valve. This will decrease the saturation. IV fluid volusis is the treatment of choice. So, because whenever dehydration, hypovolemia is there, the chances of getting spell is more. So, IV fluid volusis should be given liberally. There should not be any restrictions. Morphine to keep the respiratory drive calm, and ketamine to increase the systemic vascular resistance. And midazolam should not be used. Oxygen should be given after managing all such, after giving all these things, because in a crying child, if we are giving oxygen, that will further increase his or her irritability, will further potentiate the cyanotic spell. Midazolam should not be given. If all these fails, metoprolol infusion has to be given. Phenylephrine I never used. Bicarbonate boluses in case of severe metabolic acidosis, not responding to the fluid boluses. So all these things are failed. General anesthesia is the treatment of choice. And ultimately, when the condition stabilizes, the patient has to be sent for either BT shunt, RVOT stenting, or PDA stenting. This is a 16 days old newborn on ventilator for cardiorespiratory failure for last 2 days. Came with the history of tachycardia, decreased perfusion with hypotension, poor urine output is there. Brought X-ray was showing cardiomegaly. ECG showed heart rate of 296 beats per minute with regular tachycardia. Echo showed severe LV dysfunction. Severe cardiomegaly was there and cardiac structure was normal. This was the ECG of that newborn. As you can see, there is no PQRS relationship. This is a supraventricular tachycardia, narrow complex. QRS is narrow at regular interval. Classical ECG of supraventricular tachycardia. We tried to give adenosine to revert the supraventricular tachycardia, but there was recurrence of SVT as soon as the adenosine in fact lost. Initially responded to IV metoprolol and oral flecainide, but oral flecainide has to be stopped in view of the long QT. Later on, patient was kept on IV metoprolol, then discharged on oral propanol. Amiodarone was also used, but it was also leading increasing the long QT interval, so it was also not given. Finally, patient was discharged on propanol. Infants are generally present in the form of poor feeding, shock-like state, irritability. Young patients generally present in the form of chest pain or palpitation. Abdominal pain can also be there. Rarely congestive cardiac failure if not treated. Infants generally are having rate in the range of 220 to 300 beats per minute. Older children up to 240 beats per minute. If the patient is stable, then we can try ice face packs in a bigger child, vagal maneuvers in the form of carotid sinus massage. But ocular pressure is contraindicated. Drug of choice is adenosine in the doses of 100 to 300 mics per kg. It should be given rapid IV push. If this is also not helping because of the recurrence of the SVT, esmolol or metoprolol infusion can be tried. If this is also not working, amiodarone has to be given. For giving adenosine, the central administration is preferred. Right IJB is the preferred line, but sometimes it is not possible to take in an unstable child. Then we can use the cubital fossa for taking one vein. We have to use 3-way. On one side, we have to use adenosine series. On the other side, saline flush should be there. As soon as we push the adenosine, rapidly we have to push the saline. Otherwise, the effect of adenosine will go. This is the follow-up ECG of the same patient. As you can see, there is some slurring of the QRSs is there. Up to 1 year, it was not possible to decide what type of supraventricular tachycardia was there. But at 1 year of age, we found there was a slurring of QRS is there, a short PR interval. This is a classical ECG of WPW syndrome. Now, currently, patient is on propanol at the age of around 15 months, and we are waiting for the child to get up to 4 to 5 years of age for RF ablation, because in an Indian setup, it is difficult to perform RF ablation in less than 4 years of age. Ultimate treatment is radio frequency ablation to burn that focus. Otherwise, patient will not come out from the medical therapy. If the patient is unstable, then we can give DC cardioversion in the doses of 0.5 to 1 joule per kg. It should be synchronized and can go up to 2 joule per kg. Before giving cardioversion, we should keep the patient sedated because it is very painful. We should try to use pediatric pedals also. In the case neonate came with a history of shortness of breath, intermittent bradycardia was there. Echo shows again severe LV dysfunction. This is another form of LV dysfunction in neonate. Patient was kept on CPAP with heart rate of 60 to 100 beats per minute. Normal is more than 100 beats per minute. Echo shows severe LV dysfunction. ECG that was done, it was showing sinus rhythm because every QRS is preceded by the P wave. But here you can see the QT interval is very prolonged from here to here. That is a classical ECG of long QT syndrome in neonate. Inert calcium was low with normal magnesium and vitamin D3. History of poor vitamin D and calcium intake in pregnancy. Patient was treated with IV calcium and vitamin D, and gradually improvement with normal LV function was there. This is the follow-up ECG of the same patient. As you can see now, the QT interval is normal. Another case, 6-year-old with the history of syncope, history of recurrence for last 2 years, mostly with some activity, not at the rest, and never at rest or prolonged standing. There was no murmur. BP was normal in supine and standing. And the case of long QT, as you can see, there was normal sinus rhythm. Every QRS is preceded by the P wave, and QT is prolonged. It is more than half of the RR interval. Syncope, I am not doing causes. I am not going in detail. ECG should be done in every syncope patient because it can be normal also, it can be abnormal. Long QT will have some form of family history also. Complete heart block will require pacemaker. Red flag signs in syncope. When there is a history of chest pain, dyspnea, palpitation, or structural heart disease, chest pain, dyspnea, palpitation, especially on exertion, syncope during exercise, with swimming, with loud noise, or sleep is typical of long QT syndrome. Family history of deafness, family history of sudden and unexpected death, as in case of long QT, or can be an indication for hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. And if there is history of prolonged loss of consciousness, more than 5 minutes, it is always indicate there is some form of problem is there. Treatment is always treat the etiology. 2-month-old, history of feeding difficulty, respiratory distress, poor pulses, with signs of shock. Cardiomegaly was again there with poor LV function. This is the normal LV contractility. Here you can see the brisk contraction, but in this child there was dilated LV with poor LV function. I am sorry for the poor quality of the ECG. As you can see here, there is Q wave in 1, AVL, V5 and V6. There is a deep Q wave in V1, AVL, V5, V6. Always indicates L kappa, anomalous origin of left coronary artery from pulmonary artery. So the poor LV function in neonate can be due to long QT, due to hypocalcemia, due to this L kappa. There are various other causes. Treatment of L kappa is only surgery as soon as the patient is diagnosed. I'm not going in detail. Another neonate with poor LV function, 2-day-old neonate with heart rate of 65 beats per minute. Patient is in distress, heart failure, on CPAP support. Cardiomegaly was there, and echo shows severe LV dysfunction. Another ECG that is having no correlation of PQRS, 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 PQRS. This is a typical ECG of complete heart block. Treatment is only pacemaker because patient is symptomatic. If patient is asymptomatic and heart rate is more than 70 beats per minute, we can follow the child at regular interval. Treatable causes of LV dysfunction, tachy and bradycardiomyopathy. Tachy like supraventricular tachycardia, brady can be due to the complete heart block. Hypocalcemic induced LV dysfunction is having good prognosis. Hypertension, as in case of coarctation of aorta, or idiopathic hypertension can also lead to the LV dysfunction and heart failure. Anomalous origin of L kappa, severe left-sided obstructive lesion like aortic stenosis or coarctation of aorta. These are the treatable causes of LV dysfunction and heart failure. Now coming on to the cyanotic heart diseases, normally the aorta arises from the left ventricle and PA from the RV, but in TGA reverses. What happens in TGA? This is a cartoon showing pulmonary venous return, and by 4 pulmonary veins are coming to the LA. This is a pure blood. This is going to the LV. Normally aorta arises that supplies pure blood to the body parts. The patient is pink. But in this case, the pure blood will come to the LV and will go again to the lungs. And the venous blood, IVC and SBC, will go to the RA, RV, and will supply to the body through the aorta. So there is no pure blood supply to the body until unless there is mixing either at the level of atria in the form of atrial septal defect, in the form of ventricular septal defect, or in the form of ASD, OPDA, sorry. If the patient is having good size ASD with no VSD and PDA, the patient will not be symptomatic in early phase of the life. If the ASD is also restrictive, the patient will be in the form of short life state. The presentation will depend the type of mixing and size of the mixing. If adequate size, asymptomatic in first few days of life. If not, the patient will be deeply cyanosed and will present in the form of shock. Large VSD is there with TGA. The patient will present by 1 month of age in the form of heart failure. If VSD is not there, patient will be very blue. If VSD is there with pulmonary stenosis, the cyanosis will be predominant. Typical X-ray of TGA, X-shaped heart with pulmonary plethora, but it is with the large VSD. Without VSD, the X-shaped heart will be there, but pulmonary plethora will not be there. Timing of surgery in case of TGA will depend whether the VSD is present or not. If present, what is the size of VSD? If VSD is large enough, suppose if adequate size VSD is there, the treatment of choice is arterial switch operation, commonly known as the ASO, by 2 to 3 months of age. If VSD is absent or very restrictive, very small, then preferably patient should be operated by 2 to 3 weeks of age by in the form of ASO. If patient is presents late, the patient is having only one choice, that is Senning operation, in which the pulmonary venous and systemic venous baffles are created to the respective ventricles. Role of intervention in TGA, only ballooning of the atrial septum can be done whenever there is no VSD, PDA is closed and PFO is small. You should not use prostaglandin in such type of situation because the increased pulmonary venous blood flow will not have any benefit on the right side to supply the body. So balloon has to be done to increase the size to palliate the patient. TAPVC, common TAPVC in day-to-day practice is supracardiac TAPVC. I will show you in one cartoon. The presentation can be in the form of rapid breathing, difficulty in breathing, cyanosis, or I have seen 17-year-old girl with no problem except murmur was there. Cyanosis was not visible. Treatment is surgery. Intervention whenever there is a ASD is small, as in case of previous case, the ballooning can be done to increase the size of ASD. This is a cartoon. As you can see, the pulmonary venous return, these pink one, are not coming to the left-sided atria. That is giving pure blood supply to the HVC. The pure and impure, both bloods are coming to the RA, RV. There is no mixing. There is no pure blood supply to the left-sided chamber to supply the body. So there should be some mixing. And generally in TAPVC, ASD is the connection for giving some mixing. VSD generally is not there in case of TAPVC. The ASD size should be good to allow proper mixing. If ASD size is not good, then patient will be presented very early. This is a typical X-ray of supracardiac TAPVC in which you can see there is a vertical vein as in the previous cartoon. This is a vertical vein SVC and lower part was RA and RB. So this is the vertical vein, innominate vein will be somewhere here. This is the dilated SVC. This is the upper part of snowman sign. Lower part is formed by the dilated RA and RB. This is a typical X-ray of supracardiac TAPVC. This is an X-ray of if we are patient is having TAPVC, that is obstructed. Infracardiac TAPVC, when all the pulmonary veins are draining to the inferior vena cava. This is generally obstructed. If we are using in such type of cases, prostaglandin is using in such type of cases, patient will have such type of presentation. Alveolar edema is there and will further deteriorate. Should not, so we should not use prostaglandin. This is another X-ray of patient, that is you can see there is a pulmonary oligoemia is there on both sides, dilated RA and RB, box-shaped heart. This is a typical X-ray of Epstein anomaly. Now questions on when to refer to a pediatric cardiologist. Whenever there is systolic murmur with any of these things, signs of heart failure, cyanosis, hypertension, poor perfusion, significant failure to thrive, abnormal pulses like bounding pulses or absent or deep femoral pulses, neonates with significant murmur should be referred immediately to rule out any heart disease. Associated syndrome and anomaly, as in case of congenital heart disease, as seen in Downs and Turner. New onset murmur or changing murmur, continuous murmur that persists in the supine position, because venous hum will disappear in the supine and PDA murmur will persist. Holosystolic murmur. Pansystolic murmur will always pathological. Diastolic murmur is also pathological. Chest pain on exertion, syncope on exertion, or even at rest, and palpitation on exertion are few indications for refer to a pediatric cardiologist. Finally, to take home message is untreated cases of congenital heart disease are having high mortality rate, especially in neonatal and infant age group. And 30 to 40% of the congenital heart disease needs treatment within first year of life. Presence or absence of murmur does not include or exclude CSD in neonate. And pulse oximetry should be used in OPD as well as in every newborn who is getting born in one upper and lower limb. Chest X-ray is having important bedside tool. 90 to 95% of CSD have normal survival with treatment. And cath lab interventions are highly safe and effective with new hardware available. Thank you very much. If any question is there, I will be very happy to answer. Hello.